What does God do all day? Yet again, I pick up a topic that probably you had in your mind, but have restrained from asking about it. Or, given the elevated level many place to God, supreme or divinity, the thought of what does God do all day might not have come up at all. Topics like these are sensitive and sometimes we refrain from exploring them further. Anyway, in this video, we are going to address this topic and go deeper. Take a step back and think about the question. Look at this universe around you, the galaxies and the vast expanse that is out there. There's probably many more still waiting to be explored. Now, if you believe in a God as a creator, or in my view, the more appropriate word is a manifester, then such an entity should be super busy managing the billions and billions of living and non-living entities just on this earth itself. And what about all those galaxies out there? And we humans don't let this entity called God or Supreme also be at peace either. We have a continued pipeline of requests we keep making for things that we want to be achieved. Our desires that are still unmanifested. Requests that we keep making on behalf of our family, our loved ones, and much more. God's request line should be flooded with thousands and millions of such requests in that pipeline. And if you believe in a God that keeps track of good and bad actions and accordingly distributes the fruits of such actions, then that is yet another massive transactional system being maintained by God. It's just mind-boggling to even think on how all of this can even get managed, how all of this can even happen for the billions and billions of entities out there. And you know what? In that sense, the easy explanation given is God's potency is so much that all of this gets taken care of without any effort. And we use the term God is omnipotent. The same omnipotency is what we say is deployed in the cycle of annihilation and manifestation, or of the universes, or yugas as we call out in the Hindu tradition. But you see, if you go with this omnipotency concept, then the question becomes even more prominent. If God achieves the task of administering and maintaining everything so effortlessly, then what does God do all day again? As you query this question more and look for answers, don't be surprised if you would struggle to find a satisfactory answer. And even when you are told one, or even when you find one, it's more accepted as a matter of belief and traditional underpinning versus, I would say, any type of rationality in it. Having said all this, while we may agree or disagree on beliefs, we must respect the faith and the belief for sure. After all, an individual's belief is their belief. But fortunately for us and the viewers of this channel, we have rational answers even to the most challenging questions. And those answers are not just built up in thin air, but they come from the Gita and the Upanishads. And in the Gita and the Upanishads, we find this answer to this question of what does God do all day? Through the Gita, we find out that given the nature of divinity, there are no days for God, or God getting into this business of managing activities of the world. But instead, the role of divinity, or better said, divine itself, is a term that I prefer to use instead of God, means the enabler of energy, through which the universe, past, present, or the future operates. That energy is always charged and ready to be tapped into. Hence we say, Divinity transcends limitations and is everywhere and all pervading. As Krishna says in Gita chapter 7, this enablement of energy is done through two forms of energy. One is a more visible, tangible, material energy. Earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intellect, and individual identity. These 8 components form the material layer, and as the Taittiriya Upanishad says, everything stems out of this eight components of this material energy. But to bring this material energy to life, you need a life energy, and that is the spiritual energy which forms the basis of life. Without this life energy, the material energy is like an empty highway. But with life energy, the material energy becomes a highway springing to life with various vehicles moving on it. These two energies keep crisscrossing, creating its own patterns. Those patterns are what we call outcomes of actions. Each vehicle on this highway has its own characteristics. Choices get made, and such choices, characteristics then decide the cause and effect. Now, when you make a request to the divine, you may be thinking that your request is now in the ticket queue of the divine to be acted upon. You would think it is in the transactional queue for the divine to just put the glance there and act upon it. Instead, my friends, the reason it gets acted upon or not acted upon is based on how much you and others channel or disturb that energy flow. If the flow gets channeled properly, then that leads to an outcome you desire, and you would say God has responded. But if that energy flow gets disturbed, it will lead to an undesirable outcome. And then one may say, well, it's my karma or their karma or bad luck. Divinity's role was to provide with that highway and life energy. After that, really there is no intervention happening by the divine on a day-to-day basis. It is how you lead your life, your commitment to a cause or shraddha, your behavior, your belief and devotion that determines life's purpose and the outcomes of your actions. Hence, in the Hindu traditions, specific importance is given to samskaras or characteristics you adopt, vasanas or the tendencies you demonstrate, jnana, the knowledge you acquire and demonstrate, bhakti or devotion of applying that knowledge, and lastly surrender or prapatti, meaning you don't control the outcome, but instead all you can do is do your action and leave that outcome to the divine energy. And the patterns that get created through the intersection of material energy and life energy is what defines that outcome. As you can see, the entity called God really does not do anything during the day or at any time, because the very fundamental nature of divinity is not meant about doing anything, but it is about providing that substratum, that foundation, the basis, or as they say, God or divinity is the adhara. It is you and I who do something each day thanks to that foundation or adhara sustaining us. That foundation is the supreme. That foundation is what there is, what there was, and what will ever be. In front of that foundation, everything else pales in comparison, as the very existence of anything is because of that foundation or adhara. Through the material energy of that adhara, we have this body, and through that life energy of that adhara, we have the spirit. or soul or life energy itself. The question is not about what God does all day. The bigger question is, what do you do all day? Stay blessed, and I'll talk to you soon.